Obasi ran through the forest with blood dripping from his shoulder while the sound of splashing water followed him between the trees. "Run!" someone screamed behind him. Then came the terrible sound that had haunted the village for generations. A woman laughing inside the river. Not beside the river. Inside it. The sound echoed through the darkness like a whisper trapped beneath water. Obasi stumbled over a root and crashed into the mud. His lantern rolled from his hands, its weak flame flickering against the rain. The forest around him felt alive. Branches twisted overhead. The wind carried whispers. "Obasi." His breathing stopped. The voice sounded exactly like his dead brother. "Obasi, help me." He slowly turned toward the river. Dark water moved between the trees like a living serpent. The current flowed against itself, spinning in unnatural circles while pale mist rose into the night sky. Then he saw her. A woman standing in the middle of the river. Her feet did not sink. Her white dress floated around her body like smoke drifting beneath water. Long black hair covered her face while silver bracelets glimmered along her wrists. Obasi felt his legs moving toward her. He tried to stop. He could not. The voice returned. "Come closer." Suddenly, a hand grabbed his arm. "Don't look at her." It was old Babakanda. The elder dragged Obasi behind a tree and covered his eyes. "Do not answer her voice," the old man whispered violently. "If she calls your name 3 times, your soul belongs to the river." The woman began laughing again. Water exploded upward around her body. And then she vanished. The forest became silent. Only the rain remained. Obasi's entire body shook. "She took him," he whispered. Babakanda closed his eyes. "Yes," he said quietly. "Just like the others." 3 days earlier, the village had still felt alive. Children played beside the riverbanks while fishermen returned home carrying baskets of silver fish. Smoke rose peacefully from cooking fires as drums echoed through the evening air. But everything changed when Obasi's older brother disappeared. His brother, Chike, was the strongest fisherman in the village. Fearless, proud, and stubborn enough to ignore every warning the elders ever gave. That night, heavy rain clouds gathered above the village while villagers rushed indoors before sunset. Nobody remained outside after dark anymore. Not after the disappearances began. Obasi sat beside the fire sharpening fishing hooks while Chike prepared his net. "You're going out?" Obasi asked. Chike nodded. "The fish rise during storms. The elders warned us not to go near the river tonight." Chike laughed. "The elders fear shadows and old stories." Outside, thunder rolled across the sky. Obasi lowered his voice. "They said the spirit has returned." Chike grabbed his spear. "And I say spirits do not steal men. People disappear because they are weak." Their mother stepped toward him immediately. "Enough," she snapped. Fear trembled in her voice. "You will not speak proudly against the river." Chike kissed her forehead gently. "I'll return before dawn." But as he walked toward the door, their mother grabbed his wrist. Her eyes filled with tears. "Please," she whispered. "Do not answer if something calls your name tonight." For the first time, Chike hesitated. Then he smiled. "You worry too much." And he disappeared into the storm. Hours later, the screaming began. Villagers burst from their huts carrying lanterns while thunder shook the earth. Obasi rushed toward the river and found Chike's fishing boat drifting in circles near the shore. Empty. Only his spear remained. Wet footprints covered the muddy riverbank. But they did not lead away from the river. They led into it. Their mother collapsed crying. He answered her, an old woman whispered. "Silence." Babakanda barked. But nobody could hide the fear spreading through the crowd. The river spirit had taken another man. By morning, the village changed. No drums played. No fisherman entered the water. Doors remained shut even beneath sunlight. And everywhere Obasi walked, people stared at him with pity. That night, he sat alone outside his hut holding Chike's broken spear. Anger burned hotter than grief. He refused to believe a spirit stole his brother. Someone knew the truth. Someone was hiding something. He rose and walked toward Bobakanda's hut. The old man sat beside a small fire grinding herbs. Without looking up, he said, "You should not wander after dark. I need answers. You need sleep. My brother is dead." Bobakanda finally raised his eyes. "No," he said softly. "The dead are buried. Your brother was taken." Obasi stepped closer. "Then tell me what took him." For a long moment, only the sound of insects filled the silence. Then Bobakanda spoke. "Long before you were born, this river belonged to a priestess named Neka. Kings traveled from distant lands seeking her blessings because she spoke to the spirits beneath the water. The fire crackled violently. But the kings became greedy. They demanded immortality. When Neka refused, they accused her of witchcraft. Obasi listened carefully. They dragged her to the river during the full moon, Bobakanda continued. They tied stones to her body and drowned her while the village washed. The old man's voice grew quieter. But before the water swallowed her, she cursed them. The wind suddenly howled through the trees. Obasi felt cold. What curse? Bobakanda stared directly into the darkness. That every generation, the river would feed on the souls of men. Silence followed. Then Obasi shook his head. That's impossible. The elder leaned forward. Is it impossible that your brother vanished without a trace? Is it impossible that fishermen hear whispers before they disappear? Obasi opened his mouth. Then stopped. Because deep inside, he remembered something. On the night Chike vanished, Obasi had heard singing outside the hut. A woman singing softly near the river. At the time, he convinced himself it was the storm. Now he wasn't sure. You know something else, Obasi said slowly. Bobakanda's face tightened. The river grows stronger during the full moon. And tomorrow night. His voice trembled. Is the full moon. That night, Obasi could not sleep. Rain tapped against the roof while the darkness outside seemed heavier than usual. Then he heard it. Singing. Soft. Beautiful. Coming from outside. Obasi slowly stood. The singing drifted through the village like smoke. He opened his door. The entire village slept beneath moonlight. But near the river, a woman stood beside the water. Her back faced him. Obasi's heart pounded. Who are you? He called. The woman stopped singing. Very slowly, she turned her head. He could not see her face. Only darkness beneath wet hair. Then she spoke. Obasi. His blood froze. The voice sounded exactly like his mother. Come closer. He stepped backward. The woman tilted her head unnaturally. Your brother is waiting. Obasi grabbed a torch and moved toward the river. The closer he came, the colder the air became. The woman began walking backward into the water. Still facing him. Still whispering. Come closer. Suddenly, drums echoed through the forest. The woman vanished instantly. Obasi spun around. Deep within the trees, orange firelight flickered between shadows. Someone was awake. Someone was performing rituals at midnight. Obasi followed the sound carefully. The deeper he moved into the forest, the stronger the smell of smoke and blood became. Then he reached a hidden clearing. And what he saw made his entire body freeze. Villagers knelt around a massive fire. The village chief stood beside the flames wearing ceremonial robes covered in strange symbols. And beside him lay a young man tied with ropes. Still alive. Terrified. No, Obasi whispered. The chief raised both hands toward the sky. The river must feed, he declared. The villagers began chanting. The tied man screamed. Please. Please don't do this. Obasi stared in horror. The chief walked toward the prisoner slowly. For generations, the river protected this village, he announced. Our crops survived drought. Our enemies feared us. We prospered because we honored the pact. Tears streamed down the prisoner's face. You said my family would be safe. They will be. The chief turned toward the river. Take him. The water exploded. A massive wave crashed onto the shore while black mist spread across the clearing. Then she appeared. The river spirit. This time Obasi saw her clearly. And he wished he hadn't. The spirit's body twisted unnaturally as she emerged from the river. Her arms were too long. Her fingers dragged through the mud like claws. Water poured endlessly from her mouth while her white eyes reflected the firelight. The villagers lowered their heads immediately. Nobody dared look directly at her. But Obasi could not move. Fear rooted him to the ground. The spirit turned slowly toward the tied prisoner. The young man screamed. Please. I beg you. The chief stepped back. You were chosen. The spirit tilted her head. Then she smiled. Her jaws stretched wider than humanly possible. The prisoner's screams echoed through the forest as the river surged forward and dragged him violently into the darkness. The chanting stopped. Silence swallowed the clearing. Obasi covered his mouth to stop himself from crying out. The villagers had been feeding men to the river willingly. All this time, his brother had not been taken. He had been sacrificed. The spirit suddenly froze. Very slowly, her white eyes turned toward the trees. Toward Obasi. A terrible grin spread across her face. I know you are there, she whispered. Obasi ran. Branches slashed across his arms while thunder exploded overhead. Behind him, the forest flooded with laughter. Not human laughter. Something deeper. Something ancient. He burst into the village and slammed his hut door shut. His mother woke immediately. Obasi. He struggled to breathe. They sacrificed him, he whispered. What? The chief, the villagers, they gave check to the river. Her face lost all color. No. I saw it. Tears filled his eyes. They are feeding people to that thing. His mother sat down slowly. And to Obasi's horror, she began crying. Not from shock. From guilt. You knew, Obasi whispered. She covered her face. I tried to protect you boys. Rage exploded inside him. You knew. The chief chooses families every full moon, she sobbed. If we refused, the spirit would destroy the village. Obasi staggered backward. You let them take Chike. I begged them not to. He stormed toward the door. Obasi, wait. But he was already gone. Rain poured from the sky as fury consumed him. He marched directly toward the chief's compound carrying Chike's spear. Villagers watched silently from their windows. Nobody tried stopping him. They looked ashamed. Afraid. The chief stood beneath his shelter waiting calmly. It was only a matter of time before you learned the truth, he said. Obasi pointed the spear at him. You murdered my brother. The chief sighed heavily. I saved this village. You fed innocent men to a monster. The old man stepped closer. You think I wanted this? Lightning flashed across the sky. When I was a child, the river flooded the village for 7 days. Hundreds died. The spirit demanded offerings, and when the elders obeyed, the flood stopped. Obasi's hands trembled. So you continued. We had no choice. There's always a choice. The chief's eyes darkened. You speak bravely because you do not understand what lives beneath that river. Suddenly, the ground shook. The river roared in the distance. Villagers screamed. Both men turned. A giant wave surged toward the village. The spirit stood inside the water, watching them. "She's angry," the chief whispered. The river crashed through huts while villagers fled into the rain. Children cried. Drums echoed from nowhere. And above the chaos, the spirit's voice spread across the village. "Obasi." The chief grabbed him. "Listen to me carefully. There is only one way to stop her." Obasi shoved him away. "Why would I trust you?" "Because she will kill everyone tonight." Another wave destroyed a row of huts. The chief pointed toward the river. Beneath the water is a sacred cave. Inside it lies the relic that binds her spirit to this world. Destroy it, and the curse ends. Obasi stared toward the raging river. "And if I refuse?" The chief looked around at the terrified villagers. "Then everyone dies." The spirit's laughter thundered across the night. Obasi tightened his grip on the spear. Then he ran toward the river. The water felt freezing as he dove beneath the surface. Darkness swallowed him instantly. The current pulled him deeper while whispers surrounded his ears. "Stay with me. You cannot escape. Your brother is here." Obasi forced himself downward. Then suddenly, the current vanished. He emerged inside a massive underwater cave. His breath caught in his throat. Ancient ruins covered the cavern walls. Skeletons littered the ground. Golden treasures glittered beside piles of bones. At the center stood a stone altar covered in glowing symbols. And hanging above it was a black necklace carved from obsidian. The relic. Water rippled behind him. The spirit emerged slowly from the darkness. Up close, she looked even more horrifying. Her skin constantly shifted like flowing water. Faces appeared briefly beneath it. Screaming faces. The souls she had taken. "You should not have come," she whispered. Obasi raised the spear. "You murdered my brother." The spirit smiled sadly. "Your people murdered me first." Her voice echoed across the cave. "They drowned me while I begged for mercy. They cursed me long before I cursed them." Obasi hesitated. For the first time, he saw pain behind her monstrous form. "They fed you innocent men." "Yes." The cave trembled. "And every soul made me stronger." She stepped closer. "But you." Her white eyes glowed. "You are different." The spirit lifted her hand. Suddenly, the cave transformed. Obasi gasped. The ruins disappeared. Now he stood inside a great palace. Warriors bowed before him. Gold filled the halls. His mother smiled proudly while servants carried crowns made of ivory. "You can rule," the spirit whispered. Obasi stared in disbelief. "No more suffering. No more fear. Give me the village, and your bloodline will become kings forever." Then he saw Chike. Alive. His brother stepped forward smiling. "You can save us," Chike said softly. Obasi's eyes filled with tears. For one terrible moment, he wanted to believe it. Then he remembered the screams. The sacrifices. The children crying as the river swallowed fathers and sons. His expression hardened. "This ends tonight." The illusion shattered instantly. The spirit screamed. The cave exploded with violent water. Obasi lunged toward the altar. The spirit rushed after him with impossible speed. Her claws slashed across his shoulder. Pain tore through his body. But he reached the relic. The necklace burned his hands immediately. The spirit shrieked. "No!" Obasi drove Chike's spear through the obsidian relic. The cave erupted. Every skeleton along the walls began screaming. Water spiraled violently through the ruins while cracks spread across the stone floor. The spirit collapsed to her knees. Her monstrous form flickered between beauty and horror. "You do not understand," she whispered weakly. "The river will never rest." The cave began collapsing. Obasi turned and swam upward desperately while chaos exploded behind him. The spirit screamed one final time. Then silence. Obasi burst from the river gasping for air. The storm stopped instantly. The water became calm. Perfectly calm. Villagers gathered silently along the shore. The chief stepped forward. "It is over," he asked quietly. Obasi looked toward the river. For the first time in his life, no whispers came from the water. "Yes," he said. The villagers began crying with relief. Some fell to their knees. Others embraced their families. But Obasi felt nothing. His brother was still gone. Nothing could change that. At sunrise, he packed his belongings. His mother stood beside him crying softly. "You're leaving?" Obasi nodded. "This village buried it so long ago." She grabbed his hand. "Will you ever return?" He looked toward the silent river one last time. "No." Then he walked away. Years later, children still whispered stories about the cursed river. Most believed the spirit was finally gone. Most believed the nightmare had ended. Until one evening, a little boy wandered near the water alone. The river moved gently beneath moonlight. Then the child heard a woman singing. Soft. Beautiful. Coming from the darkness. "Come closer." The river rippled beneath the moonlight as the child slowly stepped closer to the water. And somewhere deep beneath the river, something laughed. If this story kept you watching until the end, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications for more dark African folklore and legendary tales. And tell us in the comments, would you answer the river if it called your name at night?